Welcome back to Room 237, and I'm back with another review. This is a movie that I was actually getting ready to buy the Arrow Blu-ray release, but then I saw that it was for free on YouTube, so I figured why not just check it out now. I'm surprised I didn't see it during my last 80s slasher film marathon, which most of those consisted of ones I found for free on YouTube. But it is an 80s slasher film, and it is a American-Spanish co-production from 1988 called Edge of the Axe. Now, but before I get into that, I hope this is the video where you'll hit the subscribe button, join Room 237, and I hope you'll enjoy this video and hit the like button. You can also find Room 237 reviews on Facebook and Instagram, so feel free to join me on there. And also, I thought I was going to have all three by now, but I only got volume 1, so when I get volume 2 and 3, I'll just do a video of all three of them. But I recently picked up this book by Troy Howarth, So Deadly, So Perverse, the 50 years of Italian giallo films. This covers 63 to 73. I guess some are in black and white, but this one's in color. Great book. It's very precise, giallos only, no slashers. It even goes into what makes what. Volume 2 covers rest of the 70s into the 80s, and 3 is giallo influence around the world. So, pretty thick too, and I mean, it's a lot of giallo films for 10 years. And I mean, it's actually his reviews as well. I also plan on getting his books on Argento, Fulci, Silent Era of Horror, 30s and 40s. There's a few more that he's done, but so yeah, So Deadly, So Perverse. If you're a fan of giallo films, definitely check this out, and also check out my overview of the books when I get those. All of that aside, let's get into Edge of the Axe. So yes, this is an American-Spanish co-production. Like I said, similar to Pieces, which this film has been compared to, even on the back of the Arrow Blu-ray. I think it compares it to Pieces. In that respect, I do, that it's a similar production, and I believe they were both mostly filmed in Spain. I know this was mostly filmed in Madrid. Very giallo inspired. Like, if they were Italian, it would very much be giallo. Pieces much more so than this, but Pieces is a much better film. It was directed by Jose Ramon Larraz, produced by Jose Freid, if I pronounced that correctly. Had 4 writers with a bunch of names that I'm probably not going to be able to pronounce. Stars Barton Fox, Christina Marie Lane, Paige Mosley, Fred Holliday, Patty Shepard, Jack Taylor. Now, some places say 1987, most places say 88. This says 89. It was released September 15th, 89 in the US, and November 9th, 89 in the UK. Maybe it was finished in 88. Let's see if it says here. It just says it was mostly filmed. Yeah. Arrow 2019. So whatever. 88, 89 doesn't matter. What this movie sells itself as and what it is are pretty different. It sells itself as there's a series of murders in this small rural California town with a masked murderer with an axe killing women around the town, and this newly formed couple, the computer obsessed Gerald and the daughter of tavern owners Lillian, who just met, started dating. They're on the case. They're trying to solve it. And then you have the subplots of the law enforcement sheriff, I guess, trying to solve it. And then some other subplots, like his friend, who's an exterminator, whose wife is having an affair with, I think, the father that runs the tavern, but she's going bankrupt. Nothing really goes anywhere. What this movie really is a mass killer with an axe going around killing women. This newly formed couple, the girl drops exposition every so often. We get a kill every so often, and that's it. No, it doesn't really look like anyone solves the murder, or the case. It seems like it's solved off screen at the end, and we get sort of this sleepaway camp, not as extreme, but this out of nowhere sleepaway camp kind of twist. And it does have some good aspects. I do like the look of the killer. The killer has this trench coat that kind of looks like Mr. Praline from Monty Python. This, thick rubber like Michael Myers, but all white, no hair, just like a bump for a nose and kind of like a bump for a mouth, but there's no mouth. Eyes are cut out. You can just kind of see like the whites of the eyes underneath. And that's it. Bald head. Smaller axe. Not a bad look for the killer. There's around 8 kills, which isn't bad for a 91-minute movie. I've seen a lot of slashers. I've reviewed a bunch of 80s slashers on this channel. I have a whole playlist of them. Many of them people don't consider slashers because there's 3 to 5 kills or there's 2 to 4. They're all in the last 10-15 minutes of the movie. That does happen. So to have 8 or so, I believe it was 8 murders, 8 kills over the course of 90 minutes, that's really not that bad. Some of them are bloodier than others, like the opening one in the car wash. That seems to be the fan favorite. And this has achieved somewhat of a cult status. I think part of that is because it came out 88, 89, which the slasher genre has boomed, peaked, and come down. We were already in the fatigued era of slashers. I mean, they were getting ready to end the main franchises. We were moving on to other kind of slashers like Child's Play. Hellraiser isn't really a slasher, but get into other franchises like that. When slashers did come out, they were closer to parody, self-referential parody. Not as good as Scream, but still. Like Return to Horror High, stuff like that. You did have some serious slashers coming out. Like you had this, you had Intruder, which I would also kind of compare this to, just as far as, well, no, I can't really say that because the kills are not as, doesn't have a big a variety as Intruder. They're all killed with an axe, which some people have a problem with. It's called Edge of the Axe. I'm okay with it. Iced, which is a ski resort slasher that I reviewed. That's not a good one. Had this been released... Oh, and there's a few more that I've reviewed between 87 and 89. Had this been released, and I've said this before for slashers that came out this time, if this had come out between 82 and 84... I think this would have had its following. I think that this could have gone down as another, maybe not as big as The Burning or like My Bloody Valentine or Maniac, but maybe something more, culty, like say Pieces or, The Funhouse, maybe even The Prowler, Slumber Party Massacre, something like that. It kind of fell into obscurity aside from now the Arrow release. But this movie does have a lot of issues with everything but the kills. And I mean, the kills, it's not a big effects film. It is very vicious and mean-spirited with how they're carried out, but it's not like a Tom Savini movie. It is bloody, but it's not a big effects film. The score is all right. It feels like there's too much going on, whether it be the drum beat, the main piano, and then like I think it's piano. The drum beat, the main sound, and then like the ambience in the background. It does sound like there's too much going on, and it's really around the kills, but that's part of the score I like. It does have swelling moments, like during the more emotional, happy, kissing moments. It does kind of swell up. But, I do like the score when a chase and kill is occurring. It's got this cool drum beat, and then sort of like the background type of ominous sound of like the Halloween theme. But then it's got more higher pitched 80s kind of synth sounds over that. If that layer had not been there, it was just the background and the drum beat, it would have been a pretty good score. The first kill, it opens right up with a woman in line for a car wash. She gets inside the car wash, and the killer just comes out, breaks through her windshield, kills her, opening of the movie. Then we get the opening credits, which had like that green computer text font with like the blinking cursor, I guess, which I thought was really random, but computers do play a big part in this. Not as much as, say, Evil Speak, but it is kind of a big plot point. And then we get these really, like, almost banjo-y, bluegrassy kind of songs placed throughout the film because it's, northern, rural area. Especially the way the movie ends. It's creepy music, final shot, and then immediately this like bluegrass song with the credits. But yeah, you have this guy named Gerald who at times looks like a skinny version of Billy from Silent Night, Deadly Night, and other times looks like a really young Jim Carrey. He's played by Barton Fox. He meets and has a fling with Lillian Nebbs, played by Christina Marie. His friend is a guy named Richard, played by Paige Mosley, who's married to Laura, played by Patty Shepard. Laura's having an affair with someone else. Richard is kind of talking to someone else as well. The subplots don't go anywhere, and the acting is really frustrating because there really aren't any good driving performances that really help carry the film. Whenever there's someone on screen, if someone's doing really well or passable, I'll say that. If someone's passable, and I know it's an 80s slasher film, I know it's a late 80s slasher film, I'm not expecting Scorsese acting. I'm not expecting, like, a De Palma film or Paul Thomas Anderson or Tarantino. I know it's not going to be Oscar acting, but there is a limit. So whenever there's more than one character on screen, one of them is pretty passable and you can kind of go along with it. But then the other one is just really kind of distracting almost. And there's not enough of trying to find this killer to keep you interested in everything else. You're really just waiting around for the killer to pop up again. It's one of those slashers. Granted, it does have the kills every so often. Like I said, say 8 kills, 91 minutes. I say that's pretty fair. But it makes the rest of the movie really weak. I actually found myself dozing off, and not because I was tired, but because I was bored. And that seems to be the main complaint about this movie, is that it's boring. And I can see that. The characters, there's really nothing to them at all. Really, the only character that has any kind of anything to him would be the lead, Gerald, which he's kind of the eccentric, computer-obsessed kind of prankster. But then his character gets really kind of vague and mysterious, seemingly for no reason. And a lot of the exposition kind of comes out of nowhere. Almost like, why wasn't this just brought up in the beginning? But yeah, this movie really tries to sell itself as this new couple get together. They have this computer that you can ask anything and it answers you. You know, kind of like that computer in the first act of Willy Wonka. Ask it anything, it answers you. It plants all these seeds for red herrings, which you know aren't going to go anywhere. Like, one of the victims is a prostitute. They go talk to this one guy who apparently was with her one night. He's sort of the handyman around town. He handles tools, and while he's being questioned, he has like a blunt object or like a wide object. And that's really one of the last scenes he's in, I think, maybe the last one. And then I'm gonna say spoilers here, but I mean, if you're a huge slasher fan, definitely check it out. It's worth it for the kills, at least. I mean, the car wash one is definitely standout. That seems to be everyone's favorite. I will say the prostitute one, that was pretty vicious and mean-spirited, and there were ways that was done, because with the axe, it's not just like the ch sounds. I mean, there's like thuds, and I mean, he's like flailing, so it's like he's hitting her in the arms and just random places. And just the way they have the sound design, so it's like these thuds, like he's actually hitting her. It doesn't have like the stock axe and flesh sound. And he's just hacking her, and then she's up against a wall and he's hitting her in the back. It's vicious and very mean-spirited. One of the more so, definitely of this era of the 80s. Another one where a woman is axed in the back and then picked up and like bludgeoned with the butt of the axe, or the blunt end, right to the head. And that's the same woman who earlier, she's on a farm, one of her hogs was killed and the head was placed in her bed. Which, when her husband goes down to bitch to the sheriff, he's in like that one scene, but he's one of the worst actors in the movie. This other woman who's a waitress, she gets home to find her dog's been killed, and then she gets killed. Some of the kills are off screen, but it's like the later ones. Like when the cheating wife who's going bankrupt, when she gets killed, it's off screen, but we see her after the fact. It's worth it for the kills, and I mean, definitely check it out for free on YouTube before you get the Arrow release, unless you're a collector like me and you'll buy it anyway. It's not the worst slasher you'll ever see. I can almost guarantee that. As far as later 80s slashers, I do like it more than, say, Bloody New Year, or Christ, I can't even remember some of the ones that I reviewed. It's not as good as Intruder, definitely not as good as Pieces, which sadly it is the closest one that I can compare it to, but for all the wrong reasons, and that's only because it itself compares it to Pieces. But that's the thing. In Pieces, you have someone trying to solve the case actively, and we follow that. That's our narrative throughout the film. Here, there's nothing. I mean, the girls, Lillian starts looking at Gerald like, you're kind of off today. What's going on? I saw in your file on the computer you have a list of all the girls that were killed. He says he just makes lists. And then she tells him the story about when she was a kid, she was pushing her young cousin Charlie on the swing, pushed him too hard, he fell off, fractured his skull, didn't know what happened to him. And then she finds out she entered his name in the magical computer from Friday 13th Part 4, apparently. And it says he went to some mental ward, and then he was released. So it's like, okay, Charlie is the killer, but who's Charlie? And then she goes to get on the back of Gerald's bike, and she sees there's a scar on the back of his neck. So she's like, where'd the scar come from? And you can see he's hesitant to tell her. It says it was a motorcycle accident. But we're like, oh my God, that's Charlie. I did kind of figure it was going to go in that direction. It's like, okay, it's got to be Charlie. I wouldn't be surprised if it's someone else randomly, because there is this other guy that the wife of his friend that's cheating is with. I don't remember if it's the guy she's having the affair with or someone else. He's drunk. They're in the car. She's about to hit a tree. She stops, gets out, walks back to his side, and he sits up and is the killer. But he has the trench coat already. And I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't mention the guy being killed as well, or if he's the one that called it in, or God help. I missed it. I'm sure someone's going to correct me and say, you really ought to, go back and check it out again before you do a review, so you know as much as I do. It happens. But, so yeah, I figured it was going to be Charlie. But I was like, there's got to be some other twist. There's got to be some other little thing there at the end, because this feels a little too obvious. But then again, I wouldn't have been surprised if it was Charlie and those were our breadcrumbs, because it doesn't seem like a very, for 4 writers, just the way it's acted and just how random everything is and how loose the whole film is. But yeah, okay, maybe it is something that obvious. But at the end, we find out that now Gerald, who looks crazy, pale, bags under his eyes, looks crazy. He's already been acting crazy. When the one woman, the wife, gets killed out in the woods off screen, we see the axe come down, and then it cuts to the next day with Gerald cutting wood with the same red on silver axe. So we're like, okay, it's definitely him. But then he goes to see Lillian, and this one he says, well, I've done my own research on the computer that we didn't get to see. And it says, you're actually Charlie. Charlie doesn't exist. You made him up. He holds her tight, types all the shit in, and says, see, you were the one that suffered the trauma. You were the one that was put in the hospital. See all these people that were killed? That was your doctor, that was your nurse, that was your this person, that was your that person. This was your hairdresser, this was your waitress. Or the waitress that was doing your dad, or whatever. Or there was this lady that was killing your dad. Doing your dad. Wow. That's why I should do more videos a week so I don't lose it. She doesn't believe it. They get in a fight. He's trying to say, let's just leave, be together. I can help you. And it really does seem like, okay, they've really built this guy up and set him up, even in this scene, as it's playing out, like he's tricking her, like he's fooling her. Maybe that was the intention, because I guess the final twist really was the final shot of the movie. But, so she screams. By this time, all the cops have shown up at her house. She runs out screaming. He runs out. One of the guys fires, shoots him. He falls. The sheriff's hugging her, and he says, it's okay. There's going to be no more murders in this town. Music gets really dark. We see from over his shoulder, we see her face lift up, and she gives, sleepaway camp smile, implying it was her, and she got away with it. So, maybe the intention was, we were supposed to believe Gerald was trying to trick her, say, it's you, you're the one. Hurry up, let's leave. Let's leave before they catch you, and we'll live together. I can help you. But the movie was just kind of so sloppy and inconsistent anyway that I was kind of ready to believe that it was her. I wasn't fully sure yet. I know some people will say, oh, I typed in edge of the, and then I knew what the twist was, because that's how fast I am. That's how movies don't get by me. So, So yeah, so the final shot with her with the sleepaway camp smile, freeze frame, and then hard cut from the dark ominous music to the bluegrass song. It's not terrible. I've reviewed far, far, far worse slashers. Even from the golden age of slashers, I've reviewed worse films. I've seen worse films. This one, it is very lackluster. It is disappointing. It is inconsistent. Its really only saving grace would be its kills. I know a lot of people have said that they have a problem that it's all axe killings. But, you know, it's called Edge of the Axe. It's, you know, I can kind of go with it. Some of the kills themselves are very repetitive. But, you know, at least I could remember Car Wash, the prostitute, and the one on the farm. They were all done kind of differently. And very vicious and mean-spirited. Again, not super bloody, but bloody enough. The acting is pretty bad. That is a serious flaw the film has. The writing isn't very strong either. The score does seem like it has too much going on. And I do like the look of the killer. The Mr. Praline dead parrot trench coat, and, you know, the sort of, it actually looks more like Torso than it does Michael Myers, but the mask, especially some scenes where, like, peeks around like a building and you just see like the wide eyes underneath the mask. Again, if this had come out in 1983, which there was another movie I reviewed from the late 80s that I said this, I think it might have been Sledgehammer, but I could be wrong. I said this feels like an 83 movie. This could have come out in 83 or 84. And if it did, I think it would have caught on. I think it would have found an audience more. I think slasher fatigue kind of made the flaws stand out a bit more. So, you know, I don't entirely attribute that to the film. But at the same time, it is very flawed. Its pacing is pretty bad. It is kind of all over the place. The exposition is kind of out of nowhere. We don't see the evolution of the investigation, whether it be law enforcement or these two new lovers, which is supposed to be what's driving it. It just feels more just people existing. That's kind of all it is, with an axe murder put throughout. So I can't say it's the worst slasher of the 80s. Certainly not. But as much of a slasher fan as I am, I can appreciate it for its kills and the look of the killer. I will say the explanation is a little... I don't know if I really buy the ending, because there are scenes where the killer, not imposing, but much bigger than this girl. But anyway, almost a half hour in, I thought I was going to be shorter this time, but that's Edge of the Axe. I don't think I disliked it as much as a lot of people. I think I'm more forgiving of its flaws. I look at when it came out, the fatigue of the genre and how declined it was, and just kind of the good that I see in it kind of is enough to keep me going. But anyway, that's Edge of the Axe, and thank you for watching.